I got to tell you that Bill Maher is not the type of philosopher that I could say that I really embrace or can agree with, but he did say something that made sense. I know this sounds a bit unusual, but yeah, even Bill Maher has the capacity to make sense when he wants to, and what he said was, in effect, and I'm going to show you the video here in just a moment. It's only about 60 seconds long, maybe a little bit shorter, but in effect, he gave Western civilization credit for just about everything that positively affects humanity. Not a thing, he said, could I disagree with. Something's questionable, but I really can't agree with him. But he did make one very serious blunder in this very short monologue. So let me play this. And you see if you can catch what it is that even Bill Maher missed.
And finally, new rule for all the progressives and academics who refer to Israel as an outpost of Western civilization like it's a bad thing. Please note, Western civilization is what gave the world pretty much every goddamn liberal precept that liberals are supposed to adore. Individual liberty, scientific inquiry, rule of law, religious freedom, women's rights, human rights, democracy, trial by jury, freedom of speech. Please, somebody stop us before we enlighten again. And since one can find all these concepts in today's Israel and virtually nowhere else in the Middle East, if anything, the world would be a better place if it had more Israels. Of course, this message falls on deaf ears to the current crop who reduce everything to being only victims or victimizers, so Israel is lumped in as the toxic fruit of the victimizing West. The irony being that all marginalized people live better today because of Western ideals, not in spite of them.
All right, here's what he missed. What Bill is doing is he is rebuking, if I may use that word, he is rebuking liberals for not embracing liberal ideals. And there is a good reason why liberals do not embrace liberal ideals, and they don't. It's because these people who call themselves liberals are not liberals, they are Marxists. Who call themselves liberals, who borrow the name liberals, who mislabel themselves liberals, they're not liberals. A liberal is somebody who embraces liberty. It's really just that simple. Today we call these people libertarians because the far left has co-opted the term liberal, so now when we say liberal, we think, or we're agreeing with Marxists. And that's the whole idea of co-opting a term. So we take a term that is a good term, or they take a term that is a good term and they misapply it. But we identify with the term, so we agree with them. That's kind of what Bill is doing here. So when he says, look, you liberals, these are liberal ideals, he needs to understand that the people to whom he is speaking are Marxists. Now, how do we know that? Well, he kind of gives us a strong hint to that because he sees that they are pitting one class against another. That's what Marxists do. Marxists are engaged in a perennial, perpetual, never-ending class struggle. It will never, ever come to the end. In the Marxist ideology, there is always a struggle between the oppressed and the oppressor, between the bourgeois, the oppressor, and the proletariat, the oppressed. And if there is no oppression, as in Western nations where the oppression is so minimal, it's virtually undetectable, they just make stuff up. They invent class struggle. They invent oppression where there is no oppression. Would you like an example? I'll give you one real simple example of this. I hope Bill Maher is paying attention. But have you ever held the door for somebody just because you're being polite, being courteous, being nice? Hold the door for them. They can hold their own door if they want to, but they're just being nice. Yeah, we do that all the time, right? Particularly we do that for women. It's courtesy, it's chivalry, it's being a gentleman. You hold the door for a woman. Okay, that runs contrary to Marxism because they want us fighting. They want women to see men, particularly white men, as a patriarchy patriarchy rather that is oppressive. Holding the door for them runs contrary to that Marxist ideal. Now, this is kind of a simple example, but follow me on this. So how are they going to turn that very positive action, that courtesy, men being kind to women, how are they going to turn that in the minds of women into believing that, no, this thing about opening the door and holding it for you is oppressive? How are they going to get away with that? I mean, it's so obvious that it's not. It doesn't matter. They'll figure out a way, and they did. What they do is they tell women that the person who opens the door is controlling the doorway to opportunity. By holding the door for you, the man is giving you permission to enter, or he is giving you permission not to enter, or not giving you permission to enter. So by holding the door for you, the man is not being courteous, he is being controlling. And you know what? Women believe that nonsense. Now, the fact of the matter is, if I hold the door for a man, I'm not being controlling, I'm just being polite. If I hold the door for somebody, it's not because I want to control them, give them permission. Okay, here's how the Marxists would respond to that. They would say something to the effect that it's subconscious. I don't even realize I'm doing it. But yep, that's what I'm doing. That's how Marxists think. That's how they get inside our heads and the heads of gullible people. And by the way, I don't know if you saw this or not, but it seems that young women are moving further to the left while young men are not. If anything, young men are moving further to the right. Why is that? It's because the far left, I believe, has made a concerted effort to focus on women, particularly young women, because they are the future. Think this woke movie, Barbie. I didn't see the movie. I don't plan on seeing the movie. I didn't read Mein Kampf. I don't plan on reading Mein Kampf. I know I disagree with socialism. I know I disagree with fake feminism. Feminism. There's another word. Just like liberal, they took the term feminism. Well, what is feminist about an ideology that wants men and women to be the same? They want women to think like men, to be like men. And then they have the audacity to call themselves feminine. No, feminist, not feminine. They never call themselves feminine. They call themselves feminist. Has that ever struck you as being odd? Feminists don't think of themselves as being feminine. You would think the people who want to be feminine are the feminists. Well, again, it's just a matter of wordplay. They are not feminists, but we think of them as feminists because that's the term they've chosen for themselves. They don't like feminine or femininity. What do they call it? They can't call it feminine because they can't say, we hate femininity because we're feminists. That just doesn't make sense. Well, here's what they do is they call it girly. I recall not long ago they were highly critical of one of the Trump women. I can't remember which one it was, because they said that her attire was too girly. They couldn't say feminine because they are feminist, and if they say feminine, they are equating being feminine with being feminist, and they want feminists to be like men. All right, so that's where Bill Maher messed up. He was trying to correct liberals, not understanding that they're not liberals. They just call themselves liberals. They're not feminists. They just call themselves feminists. They are none of those things. So one of the things we need to be very keenly alert to when we're dealing with the far left, with the woke left, is the fact that they are never what they pretend to be. I mean, very seldom. Does a Marxist come right out and say, I am a Marxist, I am a socialist?